It's Dr. Terry Levine here today, and I want to talk to you about failing forward and transforming setbacks literally into stepping stones. And I think this is an important topic with so much going on in the world today. And when you look at people like J.K. Rowling, Thomas Edison, Abraham Lincoln, Oprah Winfrey, and you really think about what do people like that have in common? Well, they all failed massively in some cases. I think J.K. Rowling was rejected by 12 publishers before getting the first Harry Potter book published. Thomas Edison, oh my gosh, he failed hundreds of times before successfully inventing the light bulb. And Abraham Lincoln, he lost 26 elections before becoming president. And Oprah was fired from her first television job. Their ability to fail forward is what sets them apart from others who have failed, who literally did not turn their setbacks into stepping stones towards success like these folks did. And, we all hear about successful people and their achievements. And it is important to also recognize that the essential part of the journey very often is in some of their quote unquote failure. And there's a stigma around the word failure. When I use that, I get, a lot of feedback because no one likes to fail. But in culture, think people who think that failing is a negativity are held back from reaching their full potential. I get it. No one, quote, likes to fail. And we've been conditioned to believe that failure is a sign of weakness or a sign of incompetence. And maybe we should be ashamed of it. Maybe we should do whatever it takes to avoid failing at all costs. And I simply don't believe that. I do believe that the fear of failure can prevent us from taking risks, from trying new things, or sometimes from even pursuing our passion. That fear of failure, of being judged by others, can keep us from living well and earning well and being all that we can. Literally, it keeps us from trying. And without trying, we cannot have the great success we want to live well and earn well. So this short video is about how to transform failing into winning and failing into flying. All right. And I really want you to think about this. It's a way of coming back stronger than ever before. It's taking your lowest points and transforming them to the highest mountains. In this short video, I want to discuss the nature of failure, how to use failure as a teacher, the role of resilience, and probably a lot more than that. And by the end, you'll have an understanding of the power, of the potential of failure. To me, it's a great word. You'll be equipped with the tools to move forward on your journey to living well, earning well, and being more successful. Let's dive right into failure. Let's learn to take failure as your greatest ally, because as cliche as it might sound, failure is truly, in my experience, a stepping stone to literally great things. So let's first deal with what is failure, because before we can transform failure into success, we have to understand the actual nature of failure, right? And this is really, really critically important. We tend to blow failure out of proportion. We make it so much bigger than it is. We think of failure as, this is completely terrible. It's horrendous. It's not a good thing. And it turns out when you look a little closer, it might not be quite as scary as you think it is. There is a subjective nature of failure. In so many cases, failure is literally entirely subjective. What might be considered failure by one person may not be seen that way by another. And in some cases, what someone sees as a failure, someone else will see as a great success. And I'll explain that. Who really gets to decide what constitutes failure anyway? Because most of the time, it's our own standard. We fail to meet a standard that we ourselves created. So failure is simply in your mind, which is part of living well and earning well, is making sure you really know what your thoughts are. So for example, you start your own business and let's say it fails in the first year. Some might go, what a disaster, complete failure. Others might go, awesome. What lessons did you learn? How did you grow from this experience? It took a lot of courage to even try to start a business. It's a valuable experience towards growth. See how your perception and how you think is everything. It's everything. And it's really important that you get that. The point is, failure is always subjective. So now that you get that and you realize it's subjective, I'm going to show you how to use it as a stepping stone to success. A famous basketball coach, John Wooden, said, failure isn't fatal. I love this. But failure to change might be. I'll say it again. Failure isn't fatal, but failure to change might be. You see, in our brains, in our mind palaces, we see failure as fatal. Oh my gosh, this happened. It's the end of the world. And our failures are usually a lot smaller than we have made them out to be and we perceive them to be. The problem is only if we don't learn from our failures, when we don't use them to grow into an opportunity for living well and earning well. So now I need to address the power of perception, because perception, it's everything when it comes to failure. How we perceive, how you perceive something can drastically affect your response as well as your attitude towards it. If you perceive failure as a personal attack or maybe a sign of inadequacy, it can really be hard to move on from that. Yeah. However, if you view it as, hey, this is a necessary learning process, part of a growth opportunity, you go into it with a totally different mindset. Robert F. Kennedy said, only those who dare to fail greatly can ever achieve greatly. Breathe that one in. I think that's pretty darn powerful. We will never try to achieve anything great if we constantly perceive failure the wrong way. If we see failure as the worst possible outcome, we'll do anything we can to avoid it. And while this may keep some people from failures, it keeps you from achieving anything worthwhile and truly living well and earning well. So I like to talk with my client family members about setbacks versus failures. Okay. You need to distinguish setback and failure. In most cases, what we in our minds call failure is simply a setback. And setbacks can be overcome, and they're part of our human existence. You can move on from a setback. You can learn from a setback and actually use it to your advantage. Failure, on the other hand, is a complete shutdown, or at least in our mental mind, it is, right? There's no opportunity for learning. We've given up. We've labeled it the end, and we typically refuse to see beyond it if we do not take a look at it the right way. The truth is, in my experience, most failures are actually setbacks in disguise. It may feel like the end at first. With time, with perspective, you may realize it's just another bump. Like if you got fired and you think it's the worst thing in the world, you might go on to get a job that you like so much better, even for higher pay. It's a bump in the road. And if it is truly a failure, because those do happen, okay, awesome. Learn from it and move on to create more living well, earning well, and more success. Listen, I think about Thomas Edison. What if he just gave up under his first attempt to make the light bulb and went, this is a complete failure, forget it? I don't know. Would we still be living in darkness? Who knows? Instead, he famously said this quote, I have not failed. I have just found 10,000 ways that won't work. Keep that in your mindset. He saw each failure as a step to move forward. Failure is literally just how you perceive things. If you perceive them as a struggle, just a setback, you're going to keep going. You're going to keep trying. You're going to keep pushing forward. Now, if you go, it's just a complete failure, you're going to give up. If history teaches us anything, it's that most successes are literally built on, quote unquote, failures. People who have achieved great things are going to tell you they failed countless times before finding success. What sets them apart is they see failure as a growth opportunity, a way of moving forward and not a dead end. So it is time for you to be more successful, living well, earning well, and literally shifting your perspective. Hopefully right now you have a better understanding of what failure is. So I want to just spend a few minutes talking about how you shift your perspective. Because here's the thing. Failure is truly a matter of perspective, and you have the power to change how you view failure. You can see it as struggles, or you can see it as opportunities for growth. You can see it as a dead end or a stepping stone onto something else. And if you're going to overcome failure and you're going to bounce back better than ever, you need to reframe how you think about failure. It's essential that you see failure as feedback. Did you catch that? Failure's not the end. It's simply feedback. Oh, that didn't work. So now you have feedback for future attempts, which is really important. Failure sees it as final, and it's not final. It's just moving you on, saying, oh, okay, it's not a reflection of my self-worth. It's not a reflection of my potential. Oh, failed at something. It's an opportunity to learn and grow. By shifting your perspective, setbacks become stepping stones. So the next time you quote fail, and you will because you're human, just ask yourself, what feedback am I receiving right now? That's a great self-coaching question. What feedback am I receiving right now? And then if you don't have my book, by the way, Coaching is for Everyone, which teaches self-coaching, you might want to grab it because I'll give you a few more follow-up self-coaching questions right now. What lessons can I take away from this experience? What could I have done differently? How can I apply what I've learned to other situations? So please remember, failure is not a dead end. It's a stepping stone towards your journey to living well, earning well, and success. Just reframe how you view it, and you'll open yourself up for growth and for improvement. So hopefully you're understanding that you need to cultivate a growth mindset, and reframing failure starts to do that. Embracing challenges, looking at obstacles, and learning from feedback. Client family members who have learned to adopt a growth mindset literally believe that opportunities can be developed through hard work and through dedication, not fixing things that have failed. It's just learning and moving forward. So how do we develop a growth mindset? Well, the thing I always tell my client family members is embrace challenges. Don't avoid them. They're opportunities for your growth and for your improvement. So persist through what appears to be obstacles. Don't give up when faced with things that appear to be difficult. Simply learn from feedback, set up constructive criticism, and use it as an opportunity to learn and improve. I love celebrating other people's success. I don't feel envious. I don't feel threatened by other people. I look at other people's success. I celebrate it. I go, wow, look at that reflection of their hard work. Look at their potential for growth, not a threat to my own abilities. And hopefully you can shift there too. Keeping positive is important, even when faced with a failure or a setback. Everything is cyclical. They're temporary. They can lead to better results in the long run. I'm a continuous learner, and so are all my client family members. We keep learning. We have growth mindsets for continuous learning and improvement, and we never stop seeking out knowledge and experiences. And when you cultivate this kind of mindset, it's so easy to reframe how you see failure and setbacks, right? We don't see them as roadblocks. We don't see them as dead ends. We see them as opportunities for growth and development. So in my experience, failure is a phenomenal teacher. So I shift my perspective and reframe failure, and I see it as a teacher. I go, oh, that's an opportunity to gain more insight. Oh, what can I learn through this? So you can learn a lot of things, by the way, through failure. Things like resilience, perseverance, positive thinking, creative problem solving, adaptability, right? By embracing failure, by seeing it as a teacher, you become open and curious to more ideas and more approaches. You let go of fear of making mistakes, which literally are the things that can hold you back from trying on new things. Failure also helps you sharpen your skills. Let's say you have a public speaking opportunity. It doesn't go as well as you thought it would. When that happens, there's a couple of ways that you can respond. You could say, I'm not a good public speaker. You could just leave it at that. And of course, if you do that, you probably won't be a public speaker anymore, and that will just become stagnant. On the other hand, you could say, oh, I can learn from this. How can I be a better public speaker? And then you look at exactly what went wrong and how to improve it. This way, failure becomes a learning process. It hones your skills. You become better and better at what you do. So each time you have a failure, you embrace it. You go, oh, thank you. You're giving me the opportunity to fine tune and make adjustments. Now, I want you to remember this word, yet, Y-E-T. This is a very important word and has a lot of power. It is a mindset choice to believe in the power of yet. Instead of saying, I can't do this, add the word yet. I can't do this yet. Yet implies potential and growth. It's not simply a shift in language. It is a shift in language. And a shift in language neurologically has a profound impact on your ability to improve. So that's a writer downer. Yet, for example, instead of saying, I'm not good at writing blogs, you can say, I'm not good at writing blogs yet, and I'm capable of learning and improving. See how this mindset opens up possibilities for growth, encourages a willingness to really keep you continuing to learn. So this is what failure and failing forward is about. Just imagine for a moment what the world would have missed out if J.K. Rowling gave up, right? 12 publishers reject you. She could have thrown her hands up. We would never have had the wonderful world of Harry Potter, the fun, the joy that it brings. She didn't let rejection stop her. Instead of saying, well, I guess it'll never be published, clearly in her mind, she said, I guess it's not going to be published yet. So there is a learning from failure. As I've said over and over again, failure is not the end. In fact, it's a failure to learn from failure. That's what spells the end. A key element of bouncing back from failure is going, let me learn from what went wrong. Great. What can I do differently next time? And this process of reflection and analysis, it's essential for living well and earning well. It's essential for growth and improvement. So how do we learn from failure? Well, the first thing that I do is I analyze what went wrong. You have to have a starting point from failure, analyze what went wrong, right? So you look at things like, okay, what might have contributed to the failure? Lack of effort, lack of motivation, underestimating the challenge, or maybe sometimes overestimating your own abilities. Were there external factors at play? Did you have the necessary resources or support? Were there skills or knowledge that impacted your performance? And did you really have realistic goals and expectations for yourself? When you approach, quote, failing, and you analyze it with honesty and self-compassion, and I really mean that, don't sugarcoat things. Don't pretend things went better than they did. Rather, be willing to look at yourself in an unflinching way. Do an honest assessment of what the heck went wrong. And don't blame anyone else. Don't point that finger or blame at someone else. Review your own mistakes and learn from them. And at the same time, be loving and kind to yourself. Failure is an opportunity for growth and improvement. So be very gentle and loving with yourself during this process. Don't berate yourself. Don't, think, oh, I'm so stupid, or I can't believe this happened. You're simply human, and human beings make mistakes. Those mistakes aren't final. They're not fatal. Again, I'll say what I said earlier. They're simply stepping stones. And so you can identify what went wrong, analyze what went wrong, and then go, okay, what are the lessons from this experience? I usually ask myself questions like, what did I learn about myself? What are my strengths and weaknesses? What was my approach or strategy? What was the situation or the context that this happened in? These give me valuable insights, valuable lessons for future actions and decisions. So you might do what I have my client family members do. I have them keep a journal to record the lessons learned for future reference. It's a valuable tool, because if you have uncertainty or similar situations in the future, you don't panic. So now we have to develop an action plan. Now that you've identified what went wrong, we do an analysis of what we learned. Then we have an action plan for improvement, and only that. And that action plan could include things like specific steps for strategies. It could include ideas for keeping this from happening in the future. So let's say, for example, I'll go back to that public speaking opportunity. Maybe you just didn't prepare enough. Okay. To keep it from happening in the future, you might schedule in more practice time, or you might seek feedback from others before you go do the speaking engagement. That makes sense, right? So this gives you an opportunity to set realistic goals and expectations for yourself and simply adjust the approach. Seek out support, resources, whether it be a coach, a consultant, a mentor, self-study, I don't know, developing a new skill. With determination, with persistence, you will overcome every setback and you will improve. I love with my client family members to track progress and celebrate wins. So as you pursue your goals, track your progress. That helps you stay motivated and it keeps you on track. It keeps you moving forward with your action plan. And it also gives you a great sense of how much am I growing? Your self-confidence muscle grows, you're skyrocketing. You can be inspired by the same quote challenges that maybe got in your way and stumped you a little bit previously. Additionally, it is very important that you celebrate your wins along the way. It can be as simple as acknowledging or congratulating yourself, that pat on the back for a difficult task or achieving a milestone. When you recognize and celebrate your progress, it will help you stay positive and keep motivated on your journey. And remember, setbacks are an inevitable part of life, but they don't define us. They don't hold you back from reaching your goals, not at all. By developing an action plan, tracking your progress, and celebrating your wins, you will learn and grow, and you'll be able to face challenges. Embrace the lessons you've learned through these quote unquote failures. Keep pushing forward on your path to living well and earning well and success, and literally shift to embrace a culture of failure. How would it change? How would things change if you literally created a culture of failure? Now, I'm not talking about a culture that welcomes failure as the ending point, okay? A culture that welcomes failure as part of the process. We do that here at Heartrepreneur with our team. I do it with my family. How would that impact your family, your workplace, your relationships? All around me, I'm surrounded by a culture of embracing failure. It transforms my way of doing business, my way of life. It shifts the focus from avoiding mistakes to embracing them as opportunities for improvement. There is a lot of benefit in having this failure positive mindset, so to speak. When you have this mindset in your relationships, with your family, with your friendships, literally things change. How do they change? Well, you're encouraging innovation, you're encouraging creativity. So when failure is seen as a stepping stone, not a roadblock, you and the people around you are more likely to take risks and think outside the box, which leads to new ideas. It leads to new solutions that wouldn't have been possible if you were so closed off to failure. It also fosters growth and learning and provides valuable lessons and feedback for improvement. By acknowledging failures, you learn from your mistake or mistakes, and that's how you continuously keep on a path of growth. You also build resilience, you build that muscle. This failure positive mindset helps you bounce back from any setback. You have a stronger sense of determination, and you simply see these failures as the little stepping stones towards success. In addition, you strengthen relationships by creating a culture of failure in your relationships. You build trust, you build open communication, you feel comfortable being vulnerable with your mistakes, and it creates a safe space for growth as well as for understanding. The other benefit that I have found is it reduces anxiety. If you're constantly striving for perfection, that leads to high levels of stress and anxiety. Instead, welcoming failure as a part of life, you can reduce the pressure to be perfect and focus on progress and improvement. These are really important words. You also promote self-compassion when you have a failure positive mindset. You'll be kinder and gentler with yourself. You'll see that failure is not a reflection of your self-worth. It's an opportunity for growth. That's all that it is. So, how do you cultivate a safe space for failure the way I'm speaking about it? It doesn't happen overnight. It takes intentional effort and you to consciously shift your mindset. Because we've been trained that, oh, you need to avoid failure at all costs, you have to unlearn that belief. And it may take a little bit of work to unlearn that and learn that fear. So let me go through some of the tips that I have on this. So first is leading by example. As a leader or authority figure, it's crucial to model a healthy relationship with failure. I talk about my failures, what I've learned from them. I think that vulnerability encourages others to do the same. I also, in my company, in my life, I encourage experimenting. I encourage myself, I encourage others to try new things, even if there's a possibility of failure. Listen, I have tried many different sports that I was not good at. I did them anyway. I have a sense of curiosity and adventure rather than fear. Oh, I'm not going to be good at that. I'm going to fail. In my company, with my clients, with my family and friends, I give permission to fail. I give myself permission to fail. I tell people up front, it's okay if things don't work out. It's not a problem. The more that we experiment and the more the people around me experiment, especially my team, the more comfortable they are with failure. Emphasize learning over success. I think this is one of the big shifts that have to be made. The shift in focusing from achieving success to continuous learning and growth. Don't obsess as much over results. I know that may sound counterintuitive. However, instead, celebrate improvement, lessons learned from failure. Help people see what really matters is progress. It's not perfection. That's the opposite of what most of us have been taught. Yeah. All right. Also acknowledge effort and resilience. When someone experiences a failure, instead of focusing on the outcome, acknowledge their effort. Acknowledge their resilience in trying again or in learning from the experience. What that does is it reinforces the idea of failure is not a reflection of one's abilities or worth. It encourages people to keep on trying and not to give up. And it helps you foster a creative environment where everyone feels safe and supportive in sharing their failures. An environment where people can openly discuss their mistakes without fear, without a fear of being judged, without repercussions. Encourage constructive feedback, support each other in learning from our failures because they are inevitably going to happen. And then, as weird as it sounds, celebrate failures. I know it's counterintuitive. It's essential to shift the mindset around failure. When someone takes a risk and they fail, we just had someone do this at Heartrepreneur. I acknowledge their efforts. I encourage them. I asked what they learned from the experience. And I literally was breaking the connection of failure and instead using it as an opportunity for my team member to grow. So be like Google. I'm really serious about that. Google is an example of a company that does embrace failure. For every one big success that they have that you know about, they have numerous failures. Over the years, they've released numerous products that didn't pan out, right? People didn't embrace them. They had to kill the products because they just didn't work. Things like Google Glasses, I don't know if you remember them, Google Wave, that didn't work at all. Google Buzz, that didn't work at all. And recently Google Answers. So they're embracing and they're moving forward. Despite these failures, Google continues to thrive and innovate. They don't let their failures define them. They use them as learning experiences. And they know if Google keeps experimenting, they're going to come up with winning products. They're going to have some failures. In the end, they're going to have products like Google Docs, Google Maps, and Gmail because they keep failing forward. So the lesson today is fail forward always and always. Failure is not a dead end. It's a stepping stone towards your success. Most successful people that I know have experienced multiple failures before achieving success. Think about, oh my gosh, going all the way back to Henry Ford. Oh, he had two automobile companies that failed before he founded the successful Ford Motor Company. Walt Disney, he was fired from an early job and he was told he lacked creativity. And later, he went on to create one of the most beloved entertainment empires literally in the world. So the key here is to understand failure is part of the process of success. It is integral to success. Without failure, we don't learn, we don't grow, we don't innovate, we don't improve. Yeah, I know there's a rare occasion where someone succeeds at something at their first try. That's not the norm, however. The norm is more like struggle, fail forward, make progress, fail forward again, make more progress, and eventually succeed. One of the lessons I had to learn on my journey was to let go of perfectionism. I don't know if that's something that you need to learn. So if I think of failure as a stepping stone to success, perfectionism, it's kind of like quicksand. It keeps you stuck and you can't move forward. Now, I used to be afraid to fail because I didn't want to look incompetent or imperfect. Striving for perfection hindered my progress and definitely hindered my innovation. Perfectionism, when I held on to that, created a fear of starting things. I'd never have written my 40 books if they had to be done perfectly. I never would have spoken on over 1,900 stages worldwide if I had to be a perfect speaker. When we focus too much on getting everything perfect, we delay action. We pursue our goals slowly. We don't move forward, or we just don't even pursue our goals. And this reluctance, it can stem from a fear of failure, of looking silly, of making mistakes. Ironically, avoiding imperfection is literally what leads to stagnation. Progress comes from learning, from adapting, not from waiting for the perfect moment or the ideal outcome. Instead, we want to strive for excellence. That allows our growth improvement. We're still moving forward. We're letting go the need to be perfect. You will then unlock your potential to be more creative, more adaptable, more productive in ways you have never thought possible. What matters most is that you're always moving forward to live well and to earn well, always making progress, always learning, always being open and curious, always pushing ahead. Failing forward means your failures are simply opportunities to learn and grow. You're not going to be paralyzed by fear of being imperfect. Instead, you're embracing it. It's simply a natural part of the process. And yes, there are going to be bumps and setbacks along the way. That's just the journey. They're temporary roadblocks towards success. I'm driving down the road. There's a roadblock. I find another way to go. I still get to my destination. Failure's not the end point. It's a stepping stone that will bring you to new heights. So embrace failure. It's a necessary part of progress. Embrace the lessons, learn from your failures, and let them move you forward. With this mindset, oh my gosh, there literally is no limit to what you can achieve. So in summary, I know I covered a lot in this video. We talked about quite a few things. We talked about the stigma surrounding failure. We talked about the subjective nature of failure. We talked about the power of perceptions. We talked about setbacks versus failures. We talked about reframing failure. We talked about cultivating a growth mindset, failure as a teacher, the power of yet, analyzing what went wrong, identifying the lessons you learned, developing an action plan, tracking progress and celebrating wins, the benefits of failure, how to cultivate safe space for failure, being more like Google. We talked about letting go of perfectionism and always moving forward. Whew. Now, if that seems like a lot, it is. Don't be intimidated. Don't be overwhelmed. Just keep the main principles of this video in mind. You may want to watch it again, and you may even want to share this with someone who needs it, someone on your team. Failure's not final. Change your perception. You only think you failed because your mindset told you so, because you weren't being conscious and alert and paying attention to your mindset. Reframe your mindset. See failure not as the end, as the stepping stone to greater success. And when you do experience failure, and you will, take time to analyze it and what went wrong. Simply identify, I failed. What are lessons I learned? And create the action plan for your future endeavors. And above all, I encourage you to keep moving forward. Do not stop. Do not stagnate. Do not let that fear of failure keep you from being all that you can be. You've got great things in your future. You've just got to reach out and grab it. I hope this has been helpful. Here at Heartrepreneur, while we help you live well and earn well, we work on your thinking. Thoughts and how you think as a leader, as a business owner, are super important. So don't miss out.